Or up. Yeah, no, I got done talking with him, just giving him a heads up on what was going on. That I was out here in North Carolina. I was like, dude, I slept for 10 hours. It felt like today. He's like, for real? I was like, yeah, dude. I was like, I woke up in a frantic thinking I was late for something.
Yeah, that's awesome though. I mean, you said it, you needed it clearly.
Well, so it's interesting because like I think
Mm,
that like I'm getting the right amount of sleep when I'm home. And like I'm not saying
mm,
I don't get the right amount of sleep, but I am like sleeping and I'm doing the thing. But dude, it's, the way he utilized it was the decibels. He was like, you don't realize the sound decibels that are like around you on a constant variable. Like, for example, right now, you probably hear the cars driving by your house,
yeah,
right? I don't hear no cars driving by
dude,
or anything else like that.
it's like anytime I go back to Buffalo, I'm like, it's like I'll lay down in bed and I'm like, it is so quiet. It's crazy. And
Yeah.
even just like moving here, I was like, it's so much quieter because the place I was in, I mean, it was constant noise all times of the night. And now it's like there's little noises, I'm sure, and like I think over time, like you just like kind of notice new things, but like now I'm like at nighttime, I'm like, oh, there's no like there's not as much noise. There's not sirens going off everywhere. Like there's nothing going on in the back alley. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Well, especially with our travel lately, the one thing that I noticed was I would come home and think that I got caught up on sleep.
Yeah.
then like then realize like I'm here and I was like, whoa, I didn't realize like my body needed that.
Yeah.
Um
Dude, my
I
sleep
know it was
schedule's
interesting.
like really messed up right now.
You're what?
My sleep going to sleep at night is really messed up right now.
Yeah, dude. That's why you need to
Like,
be
I'm waking
implementing
up
new
at the same
systems.
time, but I'm just, like, not I don't know. I'm not, like mm, usually I'm, like, 10 o'clock. I'm like, "Okay, I'm tired." My body is just not, feeling that right now.
Well, what are you I mean, I guess the question would be then is what are you doing in the mornings when you wake up? Like when you don't have to coach?
I haven't had to coach, but I've only been here for, like, 3 days.
That's what I'm saying though, but it's like what does your mornings look like though when you first wake up though, right? Because like
Mhm.
that's been the biggest piece that I've realized, like, when I'm come back home after these trips, like, even though I am woken up at 5:45 or 6 because of the
Yeah.
kids or whatever else, like, what I've noticed is, like, I've had to, like, run through my morning wake-up system.
Yeah,
Like,
I
and
think I
even since I started running the course even more, I've been more diligent about doing my morning wake-up system. So, like,
yeah.
when I wake up, it's like, "Okay, cool." It's a contrast shower. From there, it's morning sunlight. From morning sunlight, I'm like, "Okay, cool. Let's get outside for a walk real quick." Right?
Mhm.
Just get the system moving, and then from there, it's like protein, and then
Yeah.
there's days where I won't even do no caffeine at all.
Yeah, I think I need to and I used to, like, go out for a quick walk in the mornings. I think I need to start doing that again because my routine in the morning is pretty consistent, like, I wake up, go to the bathroom, I drink some water, I give Soup his little medicine that he takes in the morning, I then grab I, like, make my shake. But I think adding the walk, like, before like, go water, walk, and then come back and do, like, the shake, like, that's what I was doing previously,
Yeah.
would be really helpful. Like, because it's, like, a very short time frame, like, I'm not doing a ton of stuff, but I think
Yeah.
adding that in would be good.
Well, that's even part of the well, one of the modules I talk I think it's module 3 or 4, one of the 2, I talk about the morning reset. It's like a
Yeah.
20-minute reset.
Yeah.
Um, dude, it's interesting, right? Like, well, on one of the comments, I don't know if you read one of the threads, I was talking with Jamie about it. And
Mhm.
he was telling me, he's like, dude, like I've started implementing the stop, prepare, and downshift approach. And he's
Yeah.
like, notice how that's like helped him go to like get better sleep. But he's like, I've also realized like when I have bad nights of sleep, I remove caffeine for that whole day.
Mhm.
Or he's like, that's one of the biggest pieces. And I was like, oh. And the next question was like, I highlighted, he was like, yeah, the anxiety aspect of all of those things too. And just like, it goes back to the whole removing the decimal sound, right? Like, and I think that's a really good analogy for now, especially when it comes to the micro stresses within, what we're doing in our life. It's like all
Yeah,
we're doing is trying to remove or lower the decimals of stress in our system so that we can downregulate better and get to sleep. Because for you and I, like, I mean, we both been on kind of similar travel schedules recently and similar
yeah,
sleeping schedules based off of what we had Mikey's race at BPN, where we were
yeah,
up for almost
days,
36
yeah,
8 hours
yeah,
and like very minimal sleep, like 30-minute, 90-minute, like 30-minute, 40-minute naps in between. And
mhm,
then we get back into a normal routine, still training, still doing everything we're doing, still living life. Then we traveled out for Cocodona, where honestly, I don't know if we fully recover from Cocodona as much as we like thought
no,
we had. From and I
100%,
know we didn't run 250 miles, but from like an emotional, mental, and like sleep
yeah.
energy perspective, like I don't know if we fully
Well,
recover from that.
it's managing, obviously, there's the physical aspect of it, but then there's the whole nervous side of the sleep and everything else, and then there's also managing other people, right? Like, you're not living your own life there, and you have to do it for everyone else as well, and I think both you and I take that on a lot, like, if one of us is gone, the other one's doing it for everybody else.
Yeah, I think that's a really, I mean, that's a really good point. The amount of energy that we're putting forth in that, and like the difference between you and I is like I come home and I have family, obviously, but the difference with you and I though is you've also been going through other life stressors
Yeah,
that are causing a huge ripple effect as well as outside of mine. So like our stresses might, and this is what I've always said, right? Stress is stress. Stress will always be the same
yeah,
in our bodies. It just the external stress is different, but your
it's
body
different.
recognizes it as stress.
Yeah.
Um, so like
Well,
I'm
that
with you on that piece.
and then DC,
Well, that's what I was
which was
saying. Then we
also
went to
which
DC.
was more effort than we had planned for too, right?
Yeah.
Like, not that it would have been an easy weekend, right? You're still awake for 40 plus hours, sleeping little bits here and there, but it was additional stressors that was not expected.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point from a mental energy or a mental bandwidth. I
And
look
even
at it from like a
decision-making. Yeah.
yeah.
It's not managing other people either, it's like decision making, it's nonstop decision making, right? Like, even when you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna sleep, how long do I need to sleep for?" You're like, I only have 30 minutes or 90 minutes because of XYZ."
Well, that's a really good point. So, like, even when we were at Cocodona, like, I loaded the front part of the race. So obviously, we with pacing, but the
Mhm,
back end of the race, I was up every like 20 minutes checking
mhm,
trackers, making sure we're on point. And like, I know some, I don't know, maybe other crews are not doing that. Maybe they are. I haven't really had many conversations with them, but I know from a crewing perspective on our end, like,
mhm.
we're checking every 20, 30 minutes because
Yeah,
we're trying to make sure like, okay, cool, this is the time we need to leave the base camp so that we can be at the aid station within 20, 30 minutes beforehand. And even doing that, we were still getting to the aid station 10 minutes before the runner got in, or even or getting there as he's running in.
yeah,
So in it's again, it's the lay of the land. So it's like we were pushing, I would say, the limit there on that end. And would it be nice to be there 30 minutes earlier? Sure, but then you start to make adjustments and sacrifice other things
yeah.
in that aspect. So I agree with you in terms of like the decision making and I call it decision fatigue. Um,
100%. Yeah, I get that actually pretty aggressively.
what decision?
When I do too many when I have, like, a big day of, like, making decisions and here and there, it's like, well, that's why the conversations about, like, dinner are so stressful, right, for people is, like, you're like, "I've been making decisions all day, why do I have to make another one?"
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it's was so and, I hate comparing it to, like, another, physical activity, but I think we've talked about I did, the LA to Palm Springs, LA to San Diego, relay runs, and those are exhausting in their own feat of, hey, you're running I think you only run maybe 20 miles during the day or 22 miles or something when you split it up, but that you also have to be, driving the vehicle and like keeping people in track and like directions and everything else. And what I found when I was doing those was that I was the person everyone was looking to be like, okay, where are we going next? What are we doing next? Okay, you're driving. And like at the end of the day, you're like, okay. And at that time, 20 miles probably felt like a lot more, but it also is like, okay, that's like physically it's not as much effort, but it was all of the, hey, having to drive and having to do this and having to make sure the next person's ready. And like that's where like that all builds up over the day, which is I don't know, which is interesting because some people are like, oh, it's so easy, you just run. And you're like, no, 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 you're doing like
Yeah.
so many other things throughout this time.
Yeah.
But
I guess it like from my point of view, it just goes into the awareness of like how much decision making that we actually have to make
mhm,
on a daily basis, where I don't know if we actually take into account that as a whole. Um, it's something that, I talk with Savannah about, and with the kids, it's just like, we're always having to make decisions for the children, always having to do that. And as much as you're like, hey, you're 6 years old, 11 years old, 13 years old, 4 years old, like we want you to start making decisions, but at the same time, we can't expect them to do that.
yeah,
And when you go and carry that over to an adult,
mhm,
it's the same conversation. Well, look what our work is, right? When we
yep.
talk about that
Oh,
as a whole,
yeah,
as we work with individuals, it's helping them make the decisions that they can have confidence in. And it's something that
mhm,
we ultimately have had to learn how to manage the ability to make that decision, but also be able to manage energy when it
mhm.
comes to everything. As I don't know, maybe that's kind of a full circle piece there, but that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like yesterday I had planned to have like a most of the day off and not do a ton of work. And then suddenly I think I had 6 or 7 messages from different athletes and I was like, "Oh no." Like I wasn't
yeah,
prepared. It wasn't an "oh no" in like the sense of like, "Oh no, what's wrong?" But I was like, "Oh no," like I was really hoping to not have to like utilize so much effort today or like just like make those decisions all day or just like help like and it was and obviously it's like a lot of coaching of like okay how do we make this decision without asking or whatever it might be but it's again that like micro stress of like yes this is like everyone has these in their job but you don't always realize it especially of like when you talk about down regulating like where's the boundary of like okay at nighttime I need to stop doing this or in the morning like I can't let that first 20 minutes like be texting people back that are on the east coast right
yeah. Well, this like I woke up this morning, like I said, woke up at like at 10, and went through my morning 20-minute morning reset.
Mhm.
Got up, brushed my teeth, water, electrolytes. I also do taurine as well. I don't know if I share that with you. I do like a 2 grams of taurine in the water
Mhm.
with me too as well. I started doing, been doing that for a while. And then from there, went outside for a 10-minute walk, came in, made breakfast,
Yeah.
ate breakfast, and then I finally drank coffee, or I didn't even touch coffee until our call actually. And then I sat down and started reading the Bible for a bit. And then all of a sudden by like 11:15, my phone is going off from like athletes. And like I had
Yeah.
we had a discovery call for the company we just had,
Mhm.
with that. And then it was kind of just like, it was like, all right, by 11:15, 11:30, it's like, all right, my 20 minutes to an hour of just like 40 minutes of my time to myself, or an hour, is like, it's done.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, and
it's
that's
having
like
to,
8 o'clock typical time right so it's like it makes sense yeah yeah
yeah, especially because I'm on East Coast time. When it's
uh,
like, tomorrow, obviously, I'm gonna go to bed earlier tonight. Last night I stayed up later for the Spurs game until 11:30, which, by the way, be at home would be 8:30. I'm in bed
it's
by 9:30.
yeah
It's
yeah
different. So here I was like, oh, cool, same thing. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to bed at noon, and I was like, I'm not gonna set an alarm. I'm just gonna let my body wake up naturally, which I woke up
mm,
naturally. But like, from 7 a.m. in the morning here into 11,
yeah
no one's awake on Cali time. So it's like I can get everything I need to get done without worrying about anybody or nothing like that. And then
yeah
know that 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. here hits, it's game on.
yeah
Actually is not a bad schedule. Dude. It's not.
Yeah, no, it's not. I it's well, it's interesting because I actually work more with people on the East Coast
Okay.
or, like, Eastern time like, I'm predominantly that direction. And so by the evening, I actually don't have a lot of conversation,
Um,
like, or afternoon, evening, like everyone's probably finished training by, 6 p.m. that time. And so it's like by 3 o'clock, I'm more or less like good, but the mornings for me are always like rolling in pretty quickly.
oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, not I don't have that problem. Mine's spread out throughout the day.
Yeah.
Or even better, I've created boundaries where it's like, "Hey, these are my hours where I will talk with you and work with you." And then
Oh,
all of
for
a
sure.
sudden and then
Yeah.
obviously text messages and everything else like that too as well.
Yeah,
Um,
you got me thinking. I do like mostly have East Coast. Well, maybe it's split. It's probably 50-50 now,
yeah,
but
yeah. Yeah, no, dude, that's interesting. Yeah.
mhm.
I yeah. But yeah, no, I think that's the big piece when it comes to like when we talk about the decimals in terms of sound and micro stresses as well as sleep and everything else like that as a whole.
It
Yeah.
makes sense though because I always think so like when people would visit in LA and stay at my place, I'd be like, "Yo, it's kind of noisy, like just a heads up," especially if they're coming from like a suburb or somewhere that's quieter. And they're always like, "How do you sleep he like, how do you sleep here? It's insane," right? And you think about it and you're like, "It's really not that loud," but you go somewhere that is that lower decibel,
Dude,
and you're just
I
or it's like when
actually
you leave
so
a concert it's like when you leave a concert, right? And you're just like you're
yeah,
yelling when you get in the car, and you're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, like, hold
yeah,
back. I don't need to
yeah.
yell anymore," or a loud
Well,
bar.
I think it's also too something I haven't implemented is sleeping with earplugs.
Mm. I feel like I get so nervous, not that like, don't think my body will wake up, but I do think there's times where it's like, if I need to be awake, I feel like earplugs are gonna just keep me asleep. I don't know. I know people do it, but it makes me, like, a little bit nervous.
Well, that's the reason why Whoop created the whole vibration on your arm to
Oh, I
wake
love
you up.
it. But sometimes it doesn't work. Like, there's, like,
So that's what I'm saying
rare
though, right? It's
not that it
like
doesn't work, but I don't think it actually goes off once in a while where I'm like, "Wait, why is my, thing because I use a silent alarm on my phone too. I don't
okay.
actually use sound alarms except for, like, emergency, like, 15 minutes after, but if my Whoop doesn't wake me up, my phone's on do not disturb all the time at night, and so my morning alarm is just a buzz, and it's, like it's super gentle, it's super easy to wake up, but the
Or we could
alarm
go ahead
sounds
or we just create a new bed that has a huge vibrator on it and you put 25 cents inside of it.
I think those exist.
Well, old school hotels where they used to have them where you'd put 25
Yeah,
cents and the whole bed shakes. Just like you
yeah.
set an alarm on your bed and you just click it in. It's like, "Wake me up at 6 a.m." It's like,
It's fucking earthquake.
it's 100% what it is. That would be something pretty funny. But yeah, no, yeah, bringing it back full circle, dude, in terms of my morning wake up. I woke up frantic. I was talking with Roderick about it. I was like, woke up frantic. I was like, "Ah, what's going on right now?" And, didn't have to be anywhere. But we highlight it was a really good point. He was like, "Dude, how many times have you had to do that early in the morning because you had to go coach classes somewhere?" You're like, "You
Mhm.
don't need to be late." And it goes into the aspect of, like, how we just implement stress on our system so fast when waking up.
Yep.
Em I wish everyone could maybe people are like, "Dude, I experience it every morning." I'm like, "Bro, like, I unfortunately do not experience that kind of, low decimal sound around me as at all."
No,
But
same.
yeah,
I mean, I have a friend though, her and I've talked about it, she's like, "I wake up at 4:30 every morning pretty naturally." She's got a dog too, but she's like, "I lay in bed and read for an hour before I get out of bed." And she's a teacher, and I was like, "That is such a
yeah.
good idea." Like, that sounds awesome. But I think it's like adjusting to that though too, and
So
it's like the routine though that we talk about decision fatigue, like, it's always like the Steve Jobs example or Zuckerberg, they wear the same outfit every day, right? So they don't have to make a decision, but if you're doing the same routine every morning and every night, you don't have to decide like, "Oh, what am I gonna eat this morning?" or "What is the next step?" And so you've already de-stressed the morning if you already know what you're doing.
Yeah, well, so that's the whole morning reset, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's that setup to where you're like, "All right, cool, my morning's gonna be super chill," and
Uh-huh.
I use it in the sleep course. I talk about the plane taking off and the
Yep.
plane landing, and, most pilots that are really good, when they're taking off, have a very gradual takeoff.
Mhm.
You won't even notice
Except
it.
they also have to take off faster. Do you know that?
100%,
They
right?
have to
Like,
go at a higher angle.
yeah. I noticed this though, is like I can fall asleep on a plane and before takeoff, and if I don't
Mhm.
get woken up during it, it's because the pilot did a really good job of taking off. Another big piece too is if I can sleep through a landing,
Mhm.
it's because the pilot did a really good job of it. And I
Or
kind
you were
of
awake for 40 hours before.
100%, yeah, whatever, how you wanna look at it. But I take that same example of this takeoff of an airplane off of a landing strip the same way
Mhm.
we utilize our mornings and going back to, like you said, your friend sits there and reads a book in the morning for 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's the same idea. Like, I mean, I sat here and read the Bible for 20 minutes and it's just very
Yeah.
relaxing and calming. And again, we live in this culture of one 24/7 access culture as well as like the hustle culture, especially living in California. I
Yeah.
didn't realize how fast life was in California until I came back from California when I lived in Utah for 2 years, and then coming
Mm.
back, and then even out here, you're just like, "Dude, everything is super slow right now." Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's so different. I mean, even LA to San Diego is a difference though too, which is crazy. Like, which is again, is the decibel, right? Like, you're so used to this regulation or this speed, and then you just change it slightly, and it's just wild how different it feels.
yeah, and I also go back to this too, right? Is like I've learned, and I guess this comes from endurance racing, and those who do endurance races or understand endurance, not all the time do we need to be going 95% effort in everything we do.
Mhm. For
Especially
sure.
when it comes to running a 50K, 50 mile or a 100 mile or 100K, it's like there's certain paces that you can hold, but then you're going to have to pull back. I was like, actually, it's interesting. I was on my run on Sunday and like I was on the back end of a run and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to run from this point to this point. Then I'm going to hike from this point to this point. Then I'm going to run from this point to this point. And
Mhm.
and lately, I've just been so caught up in like, I need to run the whole time.
Yep, same.
And I realized it's like, oh, like my training today says just run, like get the
Yeah,
work done, get the miles done. And I tend to forget, especially because I haven't ran a 50 miler, like a legit 50-mile mountain race in a couple of years now. With running a backyard ultra,
yeah,
like there's fixed
yep.
stops. Well, no, there's fixed stops. So you can run for the 4.2 miles or power hike, run, power hike, hike, but you're gonna stop. When it comes
Yep.
to a loop race, you're gonna stop. But when it comes to a continuous, all right, I gotta start from 0 to 50 and I gotta get it done within this 14 to
Mhm.
15, 13-hour time cap, depending on what the mountain elevation is or if there is any at all.
Yep.
Like you got to learn how to preserve yourself to be able to maintain effort and consistency and energy throughout it all. And that's kind of where my headspace is getting back to. And it's going back to now taking that example and analogy, applying it back into our day
Yeah,
as a whole. And like that's one of the biggest pieces that, I think is really important that we as human beings can actually start implementing more. And I understand, like, hey, we have busy lifestyles. Like, I'm a full time dad, husband, like running a business, still
mhm.
trying to train, running and building athletes, like traveling, doing all those things. And even myself has learned to recognize, like, oh, maybe I can pull back the throttle a little bit here and there and not
Yeah,
feel so bad about it, right? Like, I texted Savannah today, I was like, I feel so bad right now that I'm sitting here in this Airbnb while like you're at home with the kids and, like, like I'm here in this like quiet place where like honestly it's like rejuvenating.
yeah,
Where ultimately like it's going to be better for everyone when I go back home. Yeah, will it be kind of a culture shock going back into the low decimal to high decimal? But
yeah,
like at least I'm ready for it and at least I can prepare for it moving forward with it. But I feel like that is something that we can implement and I think one thing I'm learning what's interesting is I'm learning while I built out the course for the Sleep 101 course in this rebuild is that like the systems that the behaviors you throw in throughout your day do really make a difference in terms on
Mhm.
how you sleep at night
Yeah.
because of that, right? Like, and we'll take in for example, right? Like Clint and Jen after they got done doing their 100 milers, same thing with Mikey, same thing with Mark. All of their sleep after being on for X amount of hours, for X amount of durations, both mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, for those things, their sleep took a hit for a week
Yeah.
to 2 weeks to 4 weeks. I mean, Mark talked about him not getting his sleep back to normal until almost 5 to 6 weeks.
Yep.
Clint talked about his taking a week. I'm pretty sure Jen took about a week as well. Mikey's same thing. So I think there's something to be said from a correlation standpoint that the higher revs that we are in terms of RPMs throughout our day, it's really
Mhm.
hard for us to get down into that sleep. So being able to manage our energy levels and our RPMs throughout the day allow for us to actually access the deeper states of sleep quicker throughout the time that we do get to spend in bed. And
Yeah.
not every day do I get to spend 10 hours in bed. Not every day do I get to spend, 7.5 hours in bed. Not every day do we get to have that luxury. So how do
Mhm.
we take advantage of that time from putting our head down on the pillow to knowing when we have to wake up and give ourselves 20, 30 minutes to just ease into the day
Yeah.
however we need to and go about it, right? I think is a really important piece there.
Yeah, it's
That we
just
have to
setting
kind of give
it's like
ourselves.
setting yourself up for success, right?
Yeah.
Like, we do all these like, you warm up before you work out. You should,
Easy.
right? You stretch, you cool down after, right? Like, things we know help for the next day. So why wouldn't we do it for something that we spend maybe, what is it, 30% of our day doing? Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
or let's say 20% of our day doing for some people.
Yeah. I mean, some people even 15, like the lower
Yeah.
end. Well, it goes back to when I talked to this to you in our coaching course, but the general adaptation syndrome,
Mhm.
to where like it's an example of what like how our body responds to stress, and then it gets into this state of like threshold where we're handling stress. And then by the time you get out of it, you drop into this exhaustion phase. And then the longer you're in that threshold stress
Yeah.
phase, the further down in the exhaustion phase you actually get, which then takes longer for you to come out of the get out and start building up on that
Yeah.
recovery state to get you back to homeostasis. I look at that as the same way in our day, right? Like once we wake up, you have your shock and counter shock phase, and then all of a sudden now we bounce back up. Now we're in this threshold phase throughout our day doing X, Y, and Z. On a scale of
Mhm.
1 to 10, some might live at a 9 for 8 to 10 hours a day. Some might live at a 3 for 8 to 10 hours a day. And then all of a sudden now everybody's exhaustion drop
Mhm.
is different, and
Yeah.
everyone's recovery period and time to come back is different. So it's like, how do we go to implement one, the ability to manage our threshold going into the day, and how do we manage our exhaustion phase coming out of it so that when we are sleeping during that recovery period, we're back to baseline
Yeah.
as a whole.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about, like, comparing it to endurance, right? It's another thing that we talk about, right, is fueling for the later miles, right? And so, like, you eat early because you're not gonna be able to catch up later, and I think people think with sleep, it's just like, "Oh, if I don't sleep for the next 5 days, I'll catch up the 2 days after," but you're actually that's really hard to do. Like, we can talk about catching up and getting back onto a schedule, but I don't feel like you can bank it as well as we think we can.
Yeah.
Like, once you're behind, you're behind. Like, you can get back to normal eventually, but you can't just, like, if you only sleep 3 hours a night for 3 nights in a row, and then you go sleep 10 hours, you're not, like, adding to that. You're already behind, and you're just trying to get back to normal, and so it's
Yeah.
like, how do we it's like, especially if you have, like, a big event or, like, work, physical, whatever it is, like, later in that week, you need to be sleeping throughout the week and not just, like, the night before. It's like, you
Yeah.
can't get behind early.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think it goes back to the aspect of like nutrition. One of the biggest
Mhm.
things that I was telling Clint to keep him eating was, hey, you're not eating for this loop, you're eating for the next loop. And it's the same
Exactly.
idea here. Hey, you're not sleeping for tomorrow, or you're not sleeping for last night or the day
Mhm.
before, you're sleeping for the next day.
Yeah.
Um, is a
And
really
it's like,
good idea.
why like, if you have a big race or something, the sleep the night before is tough for a lot of people I know because they don't know how to regulate that, and they always like, it's talked about that the 2 nights before that is actually really important, because if you're behind multiple days, you're already in the hole. Whereas, like, if you can sleep if you're racing Saturday, let's say, or you have a big presentation, it's like sleep the 2 nights before, and then if you get a little bit under the that night before, at least you're not, like, multiple days in a row.
I feel like that's sleep banking.
Yeah. I think you can sleep bank forward, but you can't, like,
Can't
make
sleep
up
bank.
for the backward, right? Like,
No.
it's like you can never eat enough to catch up late in a race. You can't, like it you'll get back to normal. Like, it's like you get back there eventually, but you can bank forward. I don't think you can, like, pull yourself out with a big night of sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. It's the same thing with the gas tank analogy, right? Like you're not filling gas for the back miles you did, you're filling gas in your gas tank for the future miles that are you're driving.
Mhm.
Is a really good
Yeah,
point on there.
if you're always running to empty, like, your car's just not as efficient.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. I think it's the same way with sleep and nutrition.
Mhm.
Yeah, no,
For
I'm
sure.
excited. Like I said, like the Sleep 101 course is super fun to have built. I've always said I wanted to start building out courses in general and build an
Mhm.
online educational platform. It's something that I've enjoyed. I mean, I think I've been in college for the past 8 years and learned how to do online education really well. I feel like so
Yeah.
being able to build that out as a whole. So, but yeah,
I think
um,
do you feel like so building this out, you probably are going in like, "Hey, my sleep's, like, pretty good." Do you feel like after building it out now, you're like, "Oh, wow, I have a lot to work on still?"
I would say more so in terms of sleep environment. So that was the
Mm,
biggest thing I realized today. And like before I went to bed last night, I prayed. I pray every night, right? But I was like, "Hey, Lord, like bring rest and slumber to my eyes, and help me get the sleep I need." And I slept for 10 hours, but there's always something to be taught in those moments. And one of the biggest things I realized was my sleep environment
mm,
was at home. We don't use AC. I mean, we do, but it's not your AC you
yeah,
think of.
yeah,
We have a
yeah, if
fan,
you're
doors open. We live in California.
yeah.
Next, our house has multiple trees around it. So birds
Mm,
start chirping at 5:30 when the sun starts to come up right away. Our deck has birds who sleep underneath it. So there's birds all the time. My dogs have dog collars on, or they walk on the patio, they
the
walk in and out
or
of the room, they walk through the bedroom. So like my sleep environment in general is not is perfect for the environment that I have as best as I can, right?
Mhm,
But coming to an environment like this where, granted, like, yeah, I know my kids are not with my wife's not with me, my dogs are not with me,
mhm,
but the sleep environment I realized was the AC is on because it's 95 degrees outside and humid. The fan is on and it feels amazing. And as a whole of all of that, it's pure silence, the decimal. So what I've learned through this course so far is like your sleep environment's probably one of the most important pieces to get a good
mhm.
night of sleep. And we'll go back to me sleeping on an air mattress at the Airbnb right before the 100-mile race for GBF.
Yeah,
Like everyone in that room, everyone that slept in that Airbnb was like, I heard you moving all night and you kept
yeah,
me up. But then the next time we finally actually got 2 nights later after we finally got the race done, everyone completed it, I was like, "I'm not sleeping on that air mattress. I'm gonna make a bed on a with a cart on the floor with a blanket." And I fell asleep and I slept 7.5 hours through the night
yep,
after being up for, 40 hours.
yep,
So what I'm learning from this course to answer your question, yeah, is like to really look at your sleep environment. Like,
mhm,
is it able to stay dark? Is it able to stay cool? The silence, right? Like even if you can put a sound machine in your room that
mm,
mutes everything else around it for even when the sun starts to come up, because that's the biggest thing we're missing in my room at home right now is a sound machine. And that's something
Mm,
that I'm probably going to implement when I get home is we're going to put a sound machine inside our room so that we block out the dogs walking in and out of the patio, the birds chirping at 5:30, 5:45 in the morning,
yeah.
and all of those things to where like we're able to get some good sleep, which, there's research showing that it's brown sound and pink sound that are really good for you to sleep at night.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, like I would say, like if anybody's looking to improve their sleep environment, I would look at, yeah, obviously not just making your room cold and dark,
Yeah.
but also making sure that the sound in there is canceling out all external sounds that would change the the baseline of what you normally would be in. Because that's really what happened. It was like my baseline at home is at a 7 for sleep environment, but my baseline here is a 1.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's interesting because it's like before I started going through it, I was like, I sleep like I know I don't sleep great, but I was like, I sleep pretty well. Like I sleep through the night, things like that. But when I started to actually go through this, and I've read a few books on sleep as well, and it's just like there's so much more to it, and I think it can feel overwhelming at first because you're like, I think the response is always, "Oh, I don't have the time," right? But it's the same thing. I don't know if you've made this analogy before. It's like you brush your teeth every day. Why wouldn't you do these things that are preventative or like prehab style work to make everything else that much easier?
Well, brushing your teeth though only takes what, a minute
Yeah. But
to 2
but all
minutes?
these components take 1 or 2 minutes, right? It's not like you're saying, "Hey, go spend 2 hours doing this or go spend an hour doing this." It's maybe you start with a 5-minute routine or 10 and then move to a 10 or 20 if you have that space. It's just the what is it? Atomic habits, right? It's the stacking habits idea that you start like brushing your teeth is probably part of your nighttime routine already. So, let's say now I brush my teeth and then I also, I don't know, do 5 minutes of stretching on top of that,
Yep.
or, in the morning, like, you brush your teeth and then you drink water. Like, just like it's like
I'm with you. No,
compounding and stacking these habits a little bit
compounding
more.
effect. It's interest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it
For
goes back to like, we'll use the train analogy or the plane analogy when it's taking off or when it's landing. There's certain procedures that it has to go through before it leaves the ground. There's certain procedures that it has to go through before landing. And I think utilizing your toothbrush and brushing your teeth analogy, those are
Mhm.
procedures again that go into telling your mind and your body it's time to go to bed. Let's brush it. And it's again, I use this saying micro detail leads to macro detail. So the smaller
Mm,
pieces and smaller behaviors lead to bigger behaviors. For example, within the community right now for everyone, I don't want like as much as like asking to post big things, I need to
yeah,
go back to having people post like you saw on the Don't Be a Lurker. What is your favorite food? In one
yep,
word. Pizza, taco. Okay,
yeah,
cool. Let's start implementing that in there because that starts building the small habit. It's it's a beautiful thing to understand and recognize human behavior and how the way the brain works. And that's what our job is as coaches. That's what we do for a living is learning how to trick your brain into doing X, Y, and Z to lead you to be successful.
yep,
Um, so yeah, no, cool.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, office hours sleep 101, dude, was just you and I hanging out and talking, which I think is cool.
That's fine. It's
uh,
a podcast now.
I wouldn't want to call it a podcast. We'll just leave it as the way it is. If people want to sit and listen to it, they can.
Yeah, no,
I
absolutely.
feel like
No, that's
I feel
good.
like a podcast is too formal. It will just be our office hours. If people want to jump in and have a conversation with us, they can jump in and have a conversation with us, and we'll post it online to the
Yep,
community to listen to. But if it's just you and I, we'll still have conversations. But yeah, if you made it to the end of this office hours with us in Sleep 101, if you're in the free community, understand that like if you want to get access to the sleep courses, obviously move into the premium tier. You'll have access to all of the other courses that we're going to be building out. And, one of the biggest pieces I guess I like to utilize here is like, think of this as a dance. If you go to a dance and you're just the person who sits on the side and watches everyone else dance, you're going to either have FOMO or you're going to create resentment because you're not doing anything, and you're going to leave the dance early. Look at this community within Omni University as a dance. The more you participate within it, the more you're going to get out of it. And that's the real reason why I honestly developed Omni University. It's been something I've wanted to develop for some time now. I just couldn't find the right platform. And I feel like this is the perfect platform for it. Like I said, like Sam just said, this could be a podcast. You're not wrong. I think like dedicating windows where people can come in and listen to us and we're all interacting and then it comes up to be that awesome. It could be a community where we're talking about the next updates of things coming within the community, athlete accomplishments, you name it. Educational conversations where like, hey, we're going to be dedicating a topic specifically to X, Y, and Z, where we're going to be doing, topics on nutrition, topics on mental performance, topics on heart rate, HRV, all of this stuff. This platform gives not just me, but gives the community the ability to actually interact on a deeper level. And that's kind of what I've always wanted to do. I know we tried to do it in other aspects through Google Meeting, but the biggest thing I found is like this allows me to stack everything in one area. So if you are one of our one-on-one clients who works with us one-on-one, you have a place to go and get information from. Because I don't know about you, but by doing this for the past 16, 17 years, I'll be honest, I'm tired of reiterating myself over the same things over and over again, to where it's like, hey, go to the Omni University and go watch the Sleep 101 course, take the course, take the heart rate course, take this occupational. Everything that's in there is what I'm teaching, and I want you. So then when you're done reading it or watching it, you can come back and have conversations with us as coaches, and then we can dial things in, because now we don't have to reiterate ourselves over and over again. And it allows you to, honestly, the word I want to say is like, you take control of your own life again, and we just help you utilize those skill sets and tools and implement them the right way. Yeah, so that's kind of what it is. So thanks. If you are watching this from the office hours standpoint, we appreciate you hanging out with us. I would say drop a comment below in terms of what's your biggest, and use one word. You know, what would you like to see from us in terms of conversations, topics? What would you like to see in terms of a course? Just put it in one word. It can be sleep. Obviously, we have a sleep one. It could be nutrition. It could be some type of training. Hey, how do you balance strength and endurance? Just something really cool like that. Again, what we're doing with this core with school and what we're doing with Omni University is like, we're just building it as we go. So like, the community is the authority. So whatever you guys want, we're going to give it to you. And again, I appreciate, you know, Sam being open to kind of coming in, as she's been telling me to do this for a while. I finally have pulled the trigger to make it happen. So yeah, I don't want this to be a podcast, because it's not what this is, but it is going to be a place where we have conversations and we get to go ahead and answer questions. And, you know, the community gets to come on and communicate with us on a whole nother level than just texting us, phone calls, messages through our app. Like, this allows for you to really connect to us from a human connection and human relationship standpoint. So yeah. Sam, you got anything?
I don't. I think you took all the words for both of us. I'm
Sick.
excited. I'm excited though. No, drop the things that you guys are interested in, because I mean we can sit and talk all day. So
Yeah, 100%. And we'll continue to highlight and let everybody know how to access the course, or the courses, how to access the calls. Um, so that won't be a problem. Again, like, you'll see it on your app. It literally says, "Hey, call coming up." You just click it, and it brings you right in. So, but other than that, we'll see you on the flip side. Actually, we'll actually be having these calls 9 a.m. California time, 12 p.m. Eastern time every Tuesday at 9 a.m. It'd either be an office hours, it might be an educational call, it might be something that is catered towards it in general. So if you guys have the time and make space, come on and hang out with us. We'll have conversations and chat with everyone. And then we'll also obviously have our Omni educational classes, where we'll be posting about those. We'll also have our community call the next week on the 17th. I actually put that in the afternoon. If we need to make adjustments based off of Sam's face, we will. and everything else like that. So again, things are just going to be coming, and again, we're leaning forward with all of this. So yeah, don't forget to comment below.